This is our presentation on the courts of Riverside County. My name is Bridget Herrera and I work with Didira Nieves. So first up here we have the overview, and we're really just going to be going in depth into the actual structure of the California court system and kind of which cases are heard where, who works what, and its connection to the actual federal courts, with of course a focus on Riverside County. And this is how we structured our presentation. So the information we're going to be going over today is the California courts, the Riverside County courts, the Court of Appeals, Supreme Court, and the Judicial Council. And first up here we have how the courts actually work. So we have the California court system, and this system consists of 3 actual levels. So level 1 would be the Superior Courts, and this is basically just trial courts that could be found in each of California's 58 counties. And they handle all kinds of cases, so criminal, civil, family, juvenile, traffic, etc. And each county has at least 1 court location. And then we have level 2, which is the appellate courts or the courts of appeal. And these are basically just divided into 6 districts across the actual state. And they just review decisions made by the superior courts when a party appeals. So kind of how it works is, in order to go to level 2, you need to go through level 1 first. And in order to go to level 3, you need to go through level 1 and 2 first. So it's kind of just a basic structure of system. And the goal is obviously to just determine whether legal errors actually affected the trial outcome. And then lastly, we have the Supreme Court of California. So this is the highest court in the state, and it basically just chooses which trials it actually wants to hear, and it's usually those involving like important legal questions, not ones that could be handled in level 1 or level 2. And then next up, we have the federal court system, and again, this system actually also consists of 3 levels. So level 1 would be district courts, level 2 would be circuit courts, and level 3 would be the U.S. Supreme Court. So for level 1, this is basically just the superior court on the federal level. And again, this is just general trial courts of the federal system, and each state actually has at least 1 district. So California has 4, and that's Northern, Eastern, Central, and Southern. And these just involve federal laws, constitution, civil rights, immigration, and just stuff like that, where it's just really kind of surface level, but not so surface level that it can be handled in just a state court system. And then next up, we have the circuit courts, also known as the courts of appeals. And there are actually 13 Court of Appeals, including 12 regional circuits. And actually, California is part of the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals, and that is based in San Francisco. And again, these courts just review decisions that are made by the U.S. District Courts. So again, in order to go to level 2, you need to go through level 1. You want to go through level 3, you need to go through level 1 and level 2. And then lastly, we have the Supreme Court, but this is obviously the U.S. Supreme Court now. So this is the highest court, not only in the state or something like that, it's the highest court in the nation. And basically, it just hears the selected cases that involve major constitutional questions or resolve differences that maybe the lower courts weren't able to resolve. And of course, this is the decisions actually made by the Supreme Court are final. So basically, after this, there's no higher ups, there's no more, oh, well, I didn't think this is right. So any decision made is a decision that's final. And the connection is, both of these actually consist of 3 levels, and they have very much overlap in jurisdictions. And of course, all the professionals involved are all as equally qualified, and state court can be appealed to U.S. Supreme Court. However, they do operate independently, so they are not, the same courts. They are independent courts. Next up, we have the Riverside Superior Courts. So there are actually 13 court locations in Riverside County, and they would obviously be in Banning, Blythe, Corona, Larson, Menifee, Moreno Valley, Palm Springs. There's actually 4 locations in Riverside, and then Southwest, and there's 2 locations in Southwest. So the types of cases that would really be heard here is just criminal, civil, family law, probate, small claims, and juvenile courts. So again, kind of just like the basics. And then there's actually departments, and basically these are just like specialized departments for different case types. So obviously there's family law, civil litigation, felony criminal cases. So just kind of makes it easier to organize everything. And then next up, we have our Court of Appeals. So we are actually in the 4th appellate, and there are only 6 throughout California, and those would be in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Diego, and Fresno, as well as San Jose. And actually, most appeals, again, come from superior courts, and they just handle civil, criminal, and administrative appeals. They obviously handle a lot more, but these are kind of just the basic ones that they handle. And all the decisions made by this court can actually be appealed again to the Supreme Court. So, decisions made here are not final. And then next up, we have the California Supreme Court. And here it's basically just the highest court in the state of California. And they just review the decisions that were made by the Courts of Appeal. And they can just solve ongoing issues within the Courts of Appeal. So again, they're really just kind of resolving any issues that were not being able to made in the lower levels. And here we have Patricia Guerrera, the Chief Justice. We have Associate Justice Carol Kerrigan. We have Associate Justice Goodwin Liu. We have Associate Justice Leandra Kruger. Associate Justice number 2, we have Joshua Groban. Associate Justice number 3, we have Martin Jenkins. And then we have Justice Kelly Evans. Okay, so next up here we have the majority plan. And this is basically just a list of qualified candidates who are complied by a team of lawyers. And that list is then brought to the actual governor. And the governor actually chooses one out of the 3 people. And that way they're really then able to actually choose the one that they want to appoint and the one that they really think is qualified and they think have the right set of mind as well. And the judge that was appointed then has to go through the actual retention election, which is then obviously that's when the public decides if they want the judge to continue serving their duty or not. And California has not adopted this plan yet, but the state system does have some traits that are really similar to the actual plan itself. For example, the governor is in charge of appointing the judge. And another example would actually be the retention elections. And these are basically just held for the appointed judge eventually. So even though they're not fully committed to the majority plan, they are really kind of picking and choosing kind of some qualities that they want from the majority plan and just adjusting it so that it fits within our state. And then next up, we have the Judicial Council of California. And this council just really helps to ensure that California courts are actually providing justice and are engaging in processes that are really just impartial. And the council also helps to implement policies that actually regard the court process. So there are many members that actually make up the council, and there are members that are from, the California Supreme Court, the Courts of Appeal, and the trial courts. So, just judges from everywhere, as well as even the state senate and assembly. And there are just also so many attorneys that make up the state bar in this council as well. And as for the advisory members, many people from different career backgrounds actually make up that section. And even the administrative director holds the position of the secretary within this actual council. And the Chief Justice is the chair of the council. So we actually decided to go ahead and look at the agenda. And an item mentioned in the agenda that was discussed in the minutes, that was item 224 to 160. This item was actually discussed during a meeting that was held on November 15, 2024. And in this item, it was basically just requested that there should be a revision of the forms regarding the adoption process. And basically just in order to make the process easier and simple. And the request had actually been approved. So again, this is kind of, people speaking out on what they think, what they feel that they need, and just getting their point across and it actually being heard. And that was our presentation. Thank you for watching.